7 o'clock on a Tuesday night. It's showtime. Mission Log Live, of course, is the show. I'm Ken Ray.
And I'm John Champion. Yes, it is Mission Log Live. Well, we get together with you to talk Trek and other things, but if you don't call in, then we're just talking at you. We want to talk with you. So call in. A few ways to do that. You can click on the link to join our Zoom meeting, or you can use the one tap from your smartphone. You can also call us, as did your father and his father before him. And please tell them to knock it off. That number is 669-900-6833. Again, 669-900-6833. Then enter the meeting code you'll find in the show description and in the comments. Then you are on with us.
Back for another round this week is Vic Mignogna, as heard in, all sorts of anime. As seen in Star Trek Continues, hey, perhaps you saw him under the cowl in Deadpool the Musical 2. Workhorse, thy name is Mignogna. He'll join us later, so get your calls lined up. 669-900-6833. 669-900-6833. Or do those other things that John said, because he just said them, and it's starting to feel both repetitive and redundant for me to repeat them. I wanted to ask John how his weekend was, and then follow-up question, how was my weekend, John? Do you?
Ken, I'm still having it. There was a long weekend that started on Thursday afternoon, and continued right up until Sunday night. I might have just let it carry on until Monday night, too. Of course, it was SDCC, and that's the party, and it was your first one.
Yes, it was my first one. In fact, I was, what? I got to do, I know, right? And then, wait, what's this one doing here? Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
yeah, I know. My first SDCC and 2 panels there. That's it may sound like I'm bragging. Oh, I'm not bragging.
Yeah, we had 2 panels. It was a blast. We had the Roddenberry panel, and then we had a panel created by our own Larry, Dr. Trek Nemechek. Star Trek, A Fandom Divided? ? Those were both a blast to do. We got to meet so many people, hang out. We may have sampled James T. Kirk bourbon.
Here's the thing. To say we may have sampled it implies that we had just a wee taste. We more than sampled the James T. Kirk bourbon. And then, we might have tried another bourbon or 2 as well. Hey, before we go on to the other people that we met and the other stuff that we did, though, and we did meet those guys. And the first part of that meeting was fantastic. And I'm pretty sure the second part was too, because we got no hate mail. Star Trek, A Fandom Divided, for the people who were there and who came out and saw Dr. Trek's panel with a whole bunch of us there. Thank you. We appreciate that. And for those of you who weren't there for it, it is going to be on this week's Mission Log. So you'll get to hear, Aaron Hartman, help me. Harvey. Aaron Harvey, thank you very much. You'll get to hear Allison Kenna Pitt. You'll get to hear me. You get to hear John, and then Christine Rideout actually was on for the Trek FM people. I'm sorry, the Trek movie people. My apologies. Yep. And of course, Dr. Trek was there as well. So all that stuff happened. And then John and I went our separate ways, and I got to sit in on 2 panels that were great. Dana Gould, who of course was our guest last week, had his panel, Stand Against Evil, Season 3. The most amazing thing, maybe the most amazing thing that happened in all of Comic-Con was he saw me in the audience, and so he did a shout out. He mentioned Mission Log, and he mentioned me, and introduced both me and our show to the people that were there to hear about his show. So that was just honestly an incredible thing to have happen, and I do thank him for that. So Season 3, IFC. Halloween, I believe, is when that begins, if you want to check that out. So that was fun.
I wish I could have been there for that. I have no idea where I was, Ken. No idea.
Yeah, I believe you were getting ready for the Sid and Marty Krofft, or the Marty Krofft, excuse me.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, experience, if memory serves. Either that, or you sent me some picture from someplace on the street, but it was really cool that happened. And then went to JPL's Dr. Robert Hurt, as heard on Priority One, a Roddenberry Star Trek podcast quite often. Dr. Hurt had a panel, NASA's Search for Extraterrestrial Life. Got no shout out from Robert Hurt. So this is the last time you'll hear his name on Mission Log. That's not true. I actually touched base with him and really hoping to have him on in the coming weeks. I think we're talking about August for that.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the there were businessy type people that we ran into?
Our good friends, the Eagle Moss, and we'll be seeing a lot more of them at STLV. So Eagle Moss, what up, yo? It was great to see them. And we stopped by Diamond Select, check out Trek Toys. And there was a lot of socializing.
Had dinner
Adam,
with the guys from Fansets.
Fansets, Adam, my food bro from Paramount. So great to see all of them. By the way, Ken, something we haven't done that we normally do on this show, a shout out to all of you who are watching live. There's David, there's Carlos, there's Lisa, there's Matthew, West, there's John, there's Joy. A lot of people asking about the bourbon. And I hope that the bourbon makes a special appearance on Mission Log Live at some point. Yeah.
I mean, if people really want tasting notes on it, I can't do like a full on, like, sipping it and all that stuff thing. I can tell you, it makes a great Manhattan. And I'm not saying that like, oh, cover it up with other stuff. I'm saying we had 2 or 3 Manhattans that night from different places, and it made the best Manhattan of the ones that we had that evening. And we had like makers, and I can't remember what else that we had in a Manhattan, but it's quality stuff, I think. And I've heard that from a few other people as well. So yeah. Let's see. It seems like there was one other thing. Oh, go ahead.
Again, hi also to Jocelyn. Hi also to Lieutenant J, Tracy Coco, joining us again for a live show. Nice to see you out there. And welcome everybody. We've got a healthy audience tonight, so I hope that many of you call in for our conversation with Vic. And Ken, you had one more note about the convention?
Oh, yeah, just, it was great to see everybody. I hung out with another guy named Ken, and normally I don't like them at all. There's something about that name that gets to me. It's not as bad as, Ray, but but Ken was actually a really cool guy. Did lots of Trek talk with him. He's an actor, he's a writer, and he's just a really swell guy. So that was fun too. All of this leads us to tonight's poll question, because already that was a lot. And with as much as we've already had, and then knowing that there's stuff coming up, we had a poll question for this week. But first, last week's poll question, John.
So last week, in honor of comedian Dana Gould joining us, we had to ask you, in universe, who's funnier, Data or Worf? Nearly an even split. Data 46%, Worf 54%. I definitely have to go with Worf on this. Worf's not trying. It's just sad to see. Data is the guy who would tell the joke and then explain the joke. So yes, I definitely side toward Worf here.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's nothing against him. It's his programming, right? Mm-hmm. He has to make sure everybody understands the joke. You see, it's funny because, okay.
Right. All right, this week,
yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, this week we're sort of like, we're in the eye of the hurricane, I think, having just come off of SDCC, which is a much bigger show, of which we have quite a bit less to do. And then going into STLV, which is a much smaller show where we have infinitely more to do. This week, our question is, convention season, can you even? Now, your two choices are can't or literally can't. Right now, people are just saying they can't. Yeah, 30% say they can't. 70% say they literally can't. We put the question to you, convention season, can you even?
Can you even, Ken?
Well, I think I have to, John. But I see, this is where I'm trying to figure out, I don't actually know how to answer this question. I mean, I'm going to, so I guess my answer would have to be can't. Because if I say literally can't, I assume that means I really won't. But I don't know.
I've lost my ability to even at this point.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think I'm all out of evens. Yeah.
Okay, but the question is, literally?
Literally can't even right now.
Well, I'm kind of bummed because I was looking forward to seeing you there. Of course, the there that we're talking about is Las Vegas, Nevada. That is the home of STLV, Star Trek Las Vegas. And yeah, no fewer things to do there, John.
Yeah. That's I'm going to go home tonight, take a nap, and you will see me next Monday. That's when I'll emerge when I'm on the road to Vegas. Yeah. All right, so when we're in Vegas, we will have the Roddenberry Entertainment Panel. That is Thursday, August 2nd at 11 a.m. Then you're going to have Mission Log Presents, but is it Star Trek, ? That's August 3rd at 12:30 p.m. And then RPN, Roddenberry Podcast Network, all of us up on stage together Saturday, August 4th at 2:15. And we're going to be talking about fandom over the last 50 years, 1967 to today. What's that landscape like? What has changed? Let's go back to the earliest days, the fanzines, the rise of the conventions, and where we are now with the internet, everybody having a voice. So that'll be a fun, lively discussion, I am sure.
What's really great about that panel, too, or what we're looking forward to, because it hasn't happened yet, so we can't be sure that it's great. But, one of the things that we're most excited about is pulling from the different shows on the Roddenberry Podcast Network, we're going to have a bunch of different perspectives on the whole thing. Larry, with the Trek Files comes a lot of Trek history. John and I come with a lot of, let's really talk about this for a very long time sort of attitude. Of course, the people at Priority One are doing news of the day, so they've got a very sort of the minute approach to it. And then Women at Warp look at it from their more socially conscious lens, I would say, than maybe some of us do. So it should just be a tremendous amount of fun. I mean, the thing is, we all ended up doing this because we're all fans. So already, just those 4 or 5 shows that we're talking about represent several sides of fandom. And then, of course, as every good panel does, we'll open up to questions. So if you've got something you want to ask or, some thought you want to throw in, we can't wait to hear that and have you share that with us.
All right, guys. So I think it's about time we welcome our very special guest. You might remember that about 6 weeks ago, we had Vic on, and we ran into a few technical issues. And boy, they just kept coming. They hit him. They hit my computer. I disappeared for a while. Ken, you were just left there to vamp on your own. But now, tonight, as promised, we have Vic Mignogna back. He, of course, the executive producer of Star Trek Continues, star of Star Trek Continues. So we are glad to see him again. Vic, how are you, sir?
I am glad to be seen.
Right?
I am so sorry again. I was so frustrated last time, and I'm very, very happy to be back with you guys. And for those of you that don't know, John and I got together an hour ago and tested all this stuff because I wanted to make sure it worked before we got to the podcast time. So thanks for having me back, you guys.
You look magnificent. You sound great. I have.
Well, I love you. Let's get those eyes checked, John, as soon as you can. But I'm in one of my favorite places here. I'm in my my little home studio, and if you can see behind me, I've got Usti back here, the very first sculpture that Greg Dykstra did for Usti in our 6th episode, Coming Out Between the Dragons. Got a beautiful Enterprise back here that somebody gave me, actually. And then in the corner, I had to steal it when we finished shooting episode 11. I literally brought the podium home that Kirk, where is it? You see it? There it is.
Yeah.
So I brought it home with me. So
nice.
And I'm actually working here is where I'm working on the Star Trek audiobook too. These are the voyages. So
So I tell you, I want to talk about all of that and all of this very, very quickly. And I don't want to get us off on kind of a sad note, but there is something that is some kind of late breaking news that I want to let our audience know about. And Vic, you already know about this. We found out today that Douglas Grindstaff passed away. He was the sound editor on the original series Star Trek. So he created so many of the sound effects that all of us so closely identify with Star Trek. And of course, mention it to you, Vic, he was credited as a consultant on Star Trek Continues.
Absolutely. He actually created some sound effects for us.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, and the style to match, obviously, what he did in the 60s. So really cool. And interesting to note here that we learned of his passing from his granddaughter, Adrienne Grady, who many of us know from Trek fandom, from Trek conventions. And she got to share a credit with her grandfather when she did Foley work on Star Trek Continues. Yes. So just a really lovely way to keep it all in the family and keep that legacy going. So Adrienne, our hearts are with you. And thank you for sharing that information with us. And glad to pass that along to our audience.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Vic, you must have worked with him a bit then to help.
Well, actually, our sound supervisor, Ralph Miller.
Oh, sure.
He knew Doug, and Adrian as well. And Ralph contacted me and said, would you be open to me contacting him about doing a couple of effects for one of our episodes? And I was like, are you kidding? Of course. I think that would be amazing. So he worked with Ralph and contributed a couple of sound effects for us.
So is that, I mean, tell me what kind of work you actually, forgive me. I mean, I've done very little sound effect stuff. Basically, it was when I was in radio. If I needed a sound, I would just sit there and try to make up whatever sound I could, with things around the room. Like what was the work sort of that he was doing with you?
It was mostly, if I'm trying to remember which episode it was. In our series, obviously, we had a lot of new things. Episodes would bring new characters, new ships, new tools, new props. And there was a sound effect in one of the episodes that we needed something completely original. And Ralph asked me if it was okay if I reached out to Mr. Grindstaff, and I said, absolutely. I'm trying to think of what it was. The problem with producing 11 full-length episodes is they kind of start to meld together, and you're not really,
Sure.
Okay, what was that sound and what episode was that? But I can certainly tell you that we were very, very honored. Very honored.
Well, I want to ask you, I mean, you guys actually had a few people from Trek. Well, I don't know where the line is between a few and several. Let's say more than 3. You had a few people from Trek working with you, official Trek, if you want to use that term. Speaks, well, I was going to say it speaks to, you tell me, what does that speak to? I mean, is it you're in LA and they heard about Trek, or is it your level of spectrum or theirs?
I would like to think that it speaks of the level of quality of what we were doing. I mean, I think it's fair to say that nobody that's like really a professional in the industry would just casually and very easily agree to be a part of something, if it wasn't going to reflect well on them. Does that make sense? So I think the fact that we were doing a tribute to the original series at the quality level that we were doing it, paying it the homage that it deserves, and again, at the production value quality that we were doing it, we were able to attract a lot of the guest stars that we did, not to say the least, John Delancey and some of the other people that were involved. So I would like to think that it was a commentary on the quality of what we were doing.
Well, that kind of leads me to, we've had a similar discussion to this before, and it might illuminate a little bit what brought all these very high-end professionals to your production. And I guess the only way to call it is the goal. People enter into fan films and independent productions for a variety of reasons.
Right.
Might be ego.
Right.
Might be, in the case of Star Trek, just people want to play Star Trek. So I'm curious, what was it that drove you, already an industry professional, to not just make a fan film, not just for a weekend go down and play Star Trek, but make a series with an extraordinary scope, knowing that, well, this isn't something I can make money off of.
It's not something I can pay other people to do either.
Well, right. Yeah.
You know what? I'm glad you asked, because I got to tell you, John, I could not be more proud of our team, of our production team. I've been involved in a lot of fan productions. Not even just Star Trek, but other fan productions. And I've been involved in a lot of Star Trek fan productions. And one thing that you consistently see is attrition. You consistently see somebody will do one episode, but then they're gone. They're like, I did it. You know what I mean? I had the fun. I had the experience. I'm not going to do it again. I'm certainly not going to do it again for no money. And I'm double certainly not going to take time out of my vacation, my family, my work, my schedules, and make no money just to do this. But I want to tell you, John, and I believe this speaks very highly of our people. In the 5 years that we created 11 full-length episodes, I can count on this hand the number of people that started with our series that did not end with our series. With very, very few exceptions, everyone involved in Star Trek Continues was there for the first episode, and they were right there for the last episode. And I believe that part of that is due to the camaraderie. You experienced it when you came down to see the sets and to do a little cameo yourself. I'm sure you experienced it. We loved each other, and we had a great time hanging out with everybody. And even when the day was over, after 10 or 11 hours of shooting, instead of running away from each other and trying to get away from these people until we had to come back the next morning, what would we do, John? We would descend on some restaurant in town, 30 and 35 and 40 people, and have dinner together and sit around and sing and joke and spend time together. And I think we created such a wonderful family that was at the same time creating some really beautiful Star Trek that people really loved coming back. And I think maybe one of the hardest things to do when we finished that 11th episode was to say goodbye to all the people that came in from all over the country to be a part of this series. I'm so proud. I'm so proud of the Matt Buseys from Vermont and the Warners from Utah and the Scotty Whitehursts and the Lisa Hansels and Ralph Millers and Ginger Hollies and on and on and on the list goes of people that gave of their time and effort to come every single episode. And I didn't expect us to do a whole bunch of episodes. When I started this, I wanted to make one good Star Trek episode the way I remembered Star Trek. I wanted to tell a story that moved people the way the original series moved me. So we made Pilgrim of Eternity. And I didn't know what would ever come of it or if anybody would like it. But when they responded the way they did, we then launched a crowdfunding campaign to make more episodes. It was never part of the plan to make 10 or 12 or 13 or 15 episodes. But people responded to it so well that we then started making more.
669-900-6833 is the number to call. 669-900-6833. I know the last time you were on, we couldn't get to all the calls that we had. So if people are waiting for somebody to go ahead and be first, we have somebody to be first. But first, let me remind you, 669-900-6833, or you can tap on the Zoom meeting link, or use the one tap from your smartphone and then enter the code that you'll see on the screen or up above the thing. And then you can be talking to John Champion, Ken Ray, and of course our guest tonight, Vic Mignogna. Speaking of which, we do have a caller. Craig is on with us. Good evening, Craig.
Hey, how you guys doing? Mission Log Labs, it's me back again from 2 weeks ago.
Oh, doing okay. Can you get closer to your mic though, because we're having real hard time hearing you.
So I can make that better. Hold on.
Sounds like a subspace anomaly is taking you, Craig.
Lieutenant, can you boost the signal?
Give me 1 second here.
Craig, I tell you what, we can come back to you.
Yep, go for it. Yeah, come back to me. Yeah.
All right. But Craig is there standing by, so we'll get that worked out. We'll come back to you. Vic, to the point that you were making about people hanging out, no lie. So I started acting kind of semi-professionally and in theater, 6-7 years old, something like that, in and out of a little bit of film work, a little bit of TV, a little bit of commercial here and there. Absolutely, this was the happiest set I have ever been on. And wow. There's that weird feeling when you walk in. Obviously, I knew you and I knew a handful of other people, but to walk into a place with a lot of people that I didn't know, and particularly on a set when things are busy, I always have that sort of anxiety that I'm going to be in the wrong place, I'm going to get in the way of the wrong people. Could not have been more the opposite. Everybody was so welcoming. The food was amazing. A well-fed cast is a happy cast, and you definitely
absolutely. And you know what? I got to tell you, John, some of the professional actors that were willing to come down and work with us, like John Delancey or Colin Baker from Doctor Who, or any of a number of them that came down, they all. Two things. The first thing they would say is, this is one of the most well-run and greatest attitude sets I've ever been on? And number 2, can you write my character back into a future episode? Because I'd love to come back. And I mean, I've been on a lot of sets, John, just like you have. And one thing that I've seen with a lot of fan productions is that they're terribly organized. You know what I mean? They're not well organized. A lot of the people are volunteers who mean well, but they don't really have any real, expertise or professional background. And it's kind of harried and frantic, and they don't get things done on time, and they don't finish, and they're up until 4 a.m. And I mean, I've been there.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of the people that worked on Star Trek Continues, because we never had a pickup shoot in 11 episodes. We never had a pickup shoot. We shot everything we needed to shoot in the time allotted, in the hours of the day that were allotted, and at the same time had a wonderful spirit, a wonderful warm spirit of camaraderie on set. And that's very, very rare.
669-900-6833. I only bring it up again because somebody asked in the chat room, what's the number again? They may have been messing with me, but you know what? I'll repeat the number all day long. 669-900-6833, and then check to make sure I got it right. Apparently, I don't know if he if he crossed Circuit A to Circuit B, but I hear that Craig is back in effect.
Yes,
Craig.
can you hear me now? Is that good?
There he is.
There we go. There we go.
What
All
up,
right.
C-Reg?
Good. So Vic, I saw you in Edmonton when you
Oh
came
my
up.
gosh. Good to
Yeah,
see you
yeah.
again, bud.
Yeah. Can you see my photo? I don't know if you can from here.
Oh, I can.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
I love you, Craig.
I got you put on man up and put a red shirt on. So for signing it, that was great. Thanks for that. So my question is, anyway, so you know how like Star Trek, you have like Let That Be Your Last Battlefield, where you have like the message is really strong for the time. So the time of like civil unrest and racism, that sort of thing.
Right.
So my question is towards your one was the episode you did, what ships are good for?
What ships are for? Yes.
Yeah, what ships are for? Yeah, and sort of like the premise, because you know how you made the decision, because when you talk about a female captain being on a ship, now we know in the future that more than likely is going to happen, right? But
Right.
I was sort of wondering, like, sort of how you got to that point where we kind of want to make a message, even though we know they're going to be female captains in the future, and even a Discovery kind of made that canon for you anyway. But
Right.
just sort of wanted to know how you sort of got to that point of making a decision on that.
On the female captain situation or the episode 9 situation? What ships are for?
What ships are for? Yeah.
Okay,
Mhm.
you're gonna love this story, Craig. Okay, do you know how we came up with this story? It's the craziest reason. I think John even knows because he's smirking. Kind of funny.
Is it because of the election, or am I wrong?
No. You're talking about what ships are for, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, the black. We like to refer to it very lovingly as the black and white episode.
Mm-hmm.
But let me tell you where it came from. I was talking to James Kerwin, another one of our amazing producers, and he and I were talking on the phone one day, and we were discussing how many people first saw Star Trek in black and white.
Mm-hmm.
I was one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I used to watch it on a 19-inch black and white television. And James said, well, a lot of people saw it like that. And I said to James, wouldn't it be cool if we could come up with a story-driven reason for why we were able to present an episode in black and white?
Oh shoot! I got the wrong question. Sorry, I was talking about the female captain episode. I got my episodes messed up.
Oh, okay. Well, just let me finish this.
Okay, sure.
James and I came up with the story about this planet where that it had some kind of a radiation canopy around it that kept certain light spectrum from coming in, and so the people on it only saw in black and white. And so we were able to make a really great allegory out of the fact that we watched it in black and white when we were kids. The other episode, the courtroom episode with the female captain, we had been getting a lot of fan letters from fans saying, are we ever going to see a woman in a position of leadership, like a Commodore or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And so or was there ever going to be a captain of a starship in your episodes? And James Kerwin came up with this story. It is no accident that it coincided with the election that year. But the premise that we wanted to ask was, certainly it is time for there to be a female starship captain, but not just any female. It would need to be a female who is qualified, who fits the bill. Just slam somebody into a captaincy because she's a girl. I mean, they would need to have the qualifications. So it became that kind of a fine line. And I'll tell you what's funny, Craig. We got letters from people on one side of the equation who would say, I can't believe, you made an episode, against a female captain. And then we had people, just as many, who would write and say, I can't believe you would make an episode for a female captain. We did exactly what Star Trek is so good at doing. It made a beautiful story where it presented both sides of a complex issue, and then it allowed you, an intellectual audience, to weigh the elements and decide how you felt about it. So the fact that we got equal amounts of male on both sides of the issue, we took that as saying, I guess we did our job well. So
yeah, I really enjoyed that one. It just sort of pressed some buttons, and it's like just reminded me of the old Star Trek where they really hit the button on civil rights and for that sort of stuff. So,
thank you. Well, you know what? Not by accident, Craig. I can assure you. When I started this series, I had determined that it was going to be about story. It was not going to be about fighting Klingons. It was not going to be about phasers and communicators and beaming down and costumes. It was going to be about story. It was going to be stories that told meaningful themes and communicated important ideas. And as soon as we set the bar that high, it became really a challenge to find those kind of stories. But I feel like we did the best we could with that. So thank you.
Thank you.
There's a producer that we all know whose name rhymes with Roddenberry, who says that What Ships Are For is his favorite episode.
Do you know what, John?
Mm-hmm.
When I was sitting in Rod's office, I told him about a couple of our ideas before it was ever even turned into a screenplay. And I told Rod about this episode, and he literally sat up in his chair and he said, I like that one. I like that a lot.
Nice.
That sounds like that's a Star Trek story. So you can imagine how proud I was to share it with him when it was finished.
Good. Hey, we've got other callers standing by. We got a little business to get to. We got more to talk to Vic about. So, Craig, thank you so much for calling in. Join us next time on the live show, okay?
Thanks, Craig.
Thank you. See you.
Right.
So, yeah, we got a bit of business to take care of. We want to remind people about our shop, because we mentioned that we're right in the middle of convention season. I'm embarrassed, John.
Just there constantly, or
well, yeah, okay. But there are two things in particular that I'm embarrassed about for this conversation.
Okay.
First, I have a ridiculous number of Star Trek T-shirts, ridiculously large number of Star Trek T-shirts. The other thing that's embarrassing is probably only 2 of them are shirts from the shop at missionlogpodcast.com.
The 2 best shirts, though, right?
Well, they're pretty good, yeah, because I've got the Ditalics Mining Corporation. Quite possibly, I would say this is the shirt that's actually responsible for all of the shirts that we have now, because you've heard this story before. Our friend Carl was listening to an episode of Mission Log, and I jokingly said, man, I would wear something, I would write on stationery, whatever they had from the Ditalics Mining Corporation. And about 2 hours after that show dropped, I want to say, I had this thing in the email that said, hey, here's a good design for a Ditalics Mining Corporation T-shirt, and you can go to my shop and buy it. So then he's now been letting us fill our shop with stuff that he's made. So yes, the other one I have is your favorite lieutenant and mine, Lieutenant J.
Mm-hmm.
Hey. And then, of course, there's a bunch of other stuff that we've got in the shop, John.
So much more. There's isolinear, John and Ken. There's carbon chauvinism, the new twist on that. Your favorite lieutenant, which you mentioned, Jay. Hey, bonk bonk on the head since 1966. You see, Timmy, is the tribute to Nova Squadron. Of course, the aforementioned Ditalics Mining Corporation, and the old favorites like Cool as Kirk and Ethos Pathos logos, even the return of Have a Look at My Robot Guts. So TeePublic is the place to find all of that. And you can get to it very easily by going to missionlogpodcast.com. You just click on shop. And when you click on shop, you'll be whisked away to our store. And you will find that there aren't just t-shirts with those beautiful designs. No. You will find mugs. You will find stickers. You will find notebooks. And let's say that there is a blank space on the wall, and I needed to hang something of a fabric medium. Oh, let's call it a tapestry. I could get that too. Tons of stuff to check out and to make your own truly unique Trek gear. Get yours today at missionlogpodcast.com.
You know what I'm going to do.
Oh, I know what you're going to do.
669-900-6833 is the phone number to call. 669-900-6833. Or tap on the Zoom link, or use the one tap from your smartphone. We do have a couple of callers to get to, but there was a question that came up when Craig was on the line that I wanted to go to really quickly. Mm-hmm. You said, Vic, that when you were getting ready to do this series, you wanted to make sure that you had what we referred to as the messages, morals, meanings, that there were ideals. There were, big ideas being examined and presented.
Absolutely.
When you were doing this show, with the exception of the occasional Kelvin universe movie, when you started the show, there wasn't really a whole lot else going on in Star Trek. And there wasn't a whole lot else going on in a lot of science fiction. Today, you've got Discovery, you've got the Orville, which is not Star Trek, but in its own way, it kind of is. I'm wondering if you were hitting the scene today with Star Trek Continues, would that change? Would your ideas of what you needed to do with the show change? Or would you look at the landscape today and go, you know what? We got the Orville, we got Discovery. I'm going to hang back.
Oh, I wouldn't change anything.
Really?
I would do exactly what we did, because I have to tell you, what we did was based purely on, it didn't take into account anything outside of just a desire to create more classic Star Trek stories. Again, I don't want to repeat myself too much. I don't want to bore anybody, but when I was a little boy, I was so inspired by the original series of Star Trek. I made Star Trek Continues because I wanted to pay tribute. I wanted to pay homage. I wanted to use whatever skills I had developed over the last several decades to pay homage to the show that inspired me in so many ways to do a lot of the things that I do professionally today. It didn't take into account how many or how few other sci-fi related things were out there. One thing I felt for sure was there was certainly no classic TOS. And even now, there is no classic TOS. I understand that Discovery has a target audience, and CBS is trying to bring a lot of new fans to Star Trek, and I applaud that. But I don't think anyone would argue that Discovery is not TOS. So I wanted to make something that celebrated my love for the original series, and there was no checking to see what was out there or filling a void. I wanted to show my love for the original series. So I wouldn't change anything.
All right. Let's hop over to our next caller. We have Katrina standing by. Katrina, are you there?
Hello.
Hi, Katrina.
Hi.
Welcome.
Katrina, I recognize those objects.
Do you really? I hope you do.
That's Tamaki's beautiful bear from Oran High School Host Club, and that is the world's smallest alchemist, Edward Elric.
It is. I'm super nervous right now, so I apologize if I mess up or anything.
Oh, no worries, sweetie. What's your question?
Well, I wanted to say that I'm going to see you in Glasgow in the con.
Oh, good.
And I'm super excited because I've never seen you, and it'll be the first time. And
well, I will look forward to it.
My question was, if you could, would you do more Star Trek series?
Oh, sweetheart, I would do it in a heartbeat. I'm going to tell you something, Katrina, and John knows this as well. It was my intention. We wanted to do maybe 13, maybe 15 episodes. We wanted to make one more television season and finish the 5-year mission. Because of things that came up in the fan world and fan production world, we were forced to curtail the number of episodes we were going to do. But the good news is we finished, Katrina. The good news is that we didn't just stop with nothing else going on, just stop dead in our tracks. We were able to finish the 5-year mission. And even though we only were able to do 11 episodes, I would certainly do more if I could. And I think I speak for the rest of the Star Trek Continues cast and crew as well. We loved each other, and we loved making these episodes, and we would do more if we had the chance. I assure you. Thank you, sweetie.
No problem.
I will look forward to seeing you very soon at that convention.
Yeah.
And let's hop over to Barry. I believe Barry is next. You are on the line, sir.
Hello, John. How are you?
Hey, I recognize you.
It's the discount version of you. Finally back.
You're creeping up there, man. I can't wait to see you in Vegas next week.
Yeah, just a week.
Oh, are you going to be in Vegas, Barry?
Yes, I will. Actually, I met you last year, Vic. I was the handler for Santa Gorn. You were in your Mirror Universe outfit.
Good. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, and thanks for calling in, man.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, it's always a pleasure to get to talk to Ken and Rain. It's a distinguished pleasure to get to speak with you, Vic. You're a real inspiration for what you've done.
Cut this guy off.
Barry's my favorite.
Don't mind those guys, Barry. Don't mind those guys. Just talk to me, Barry.
Well, they're gonna heckle the whole way through. I'm already in trouble. This is already a sinking ship. No, I've been having a longer conversation with a friend of mine on science fiction and philosophy, and how you actually make a science fiction like episode, or in your sense, a entire homage series to what I would consider the greatest science fiction franchise.
And you would be correct, sir.
Thank you. My question is more to do with the conversations. What Ships Are For was mentioned a moment ago, and that episode broke me, and then the final episodes broke me even more. And I think about the different philosophies and deeper messages, morals, and meanings, as John and Ken always talk about. And I want to ask, maybe just using What Ships Are For, because I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the final episodes, because there could be people who haven't seen Star Trek Continues, and I want to ruin nothing. But maybe if you could just kind of take me through, if you can remember it, the thought process. Was it we want to go to a planet where there are no colors and people don't see that way, and that's where a supposed enemy can hide in plain sight, but once those colors are finally made visible, suddenly all these horrifying revelations come to pass? Or was it, you guys were maybe talking more about, a lot of the nuances around race, around how our culture changes by way of its acceptance? You guys have a lot of things you had to say in it. So I'm just wondering, was it the premise of the show of going to a black and white planet, or was it the deeper conversations that you guys were having that influenced the episode? I don't know if I've made.
Well, yeah, no, I understand. And here's what I would answer to that. My answer would be that we started with the premise of a black and white planet, but before we ever wrote any story, we started talking about where is there a message to tell here? Where is there a theme? And of course, we all know that immigration is a very big issue right now. And there are significant points on both sides of that argument. And if you remember, in What Ships Are For, the people on Hyalinus were very, 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 very firm and strong about not letting these people from this other planet come, for a myriad of different reasons, which they all discussed. But what I thought was so beautiful was they had a preconceived notion of who these people were, because they had they had this preconceived notion, but they didn't realize that some of their dearest friends, and in some cases their partners, were from this other place, and they didn't know because they couldn't see the differences between them. And I think one of the real themes that we wanted to drive home was, if you could take away the visual, purely just what you can see, and judge people or accept people or relate to people on who they are inside, and not just the color of their hair or the color of their skin, you would go a long way to reducing a lot of the friction and the tensions. There is beauty in everyone. Mm-hmm. And, John Delancey's character had a very strong opinion of these people from Abitius because he didn't realize that his own loving wife was Abitian, and this girl that they had adopted as their daughter was Abitian. He loved them unconditionally because he didn't know any better. Mm-hmm. So there were a lot of really deep themes in What Chips Are For. And I got to tell you, got to give props to Kipley Brown. We gave her the story. We just gave her a story outline, and she wrote a most beautiful, beautiful episode. And I'm so proud of how it turned out. And thank you so much. And as for the last two, our 2-part finale, I hope if anybody out there listening hasn't seen them yet, they certainly will go and check them out, because there's a pretty powerful theme there as well.
Bring tissues. Just bring tissues.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. Even now when I watch it, I bawl. It gets me still.
Forgive. Oh, okay. Anyway,
Barry, I can't thank you enough. We're going to see you in a week, and we're staring down the end of the show here.
Oh my gosh!
Clock. But thank you so much for calling out.
Yeah.
We got to some of our other callers, but
absolutely,
you, sir, we will see in person in very.
Yeah, make sure and come and say hello in Vegas.
Barry. I certainly will. Take care, guys.
Take care, Barry. Hey, we got to do, there are a couple of other people we have to introduce Barry to when we get out there. I'm going to do something that I don't know that Barry would have done.
Okay.
There's a podcast called Politrex, Politreks. A lot of times John and I will do an episode of Mission Log, and we see what the theme is going to be. And I won't say that we're nervous, but we are. Politrex, Barry, who was just on, Barry DeFord, is one of the hosts of Politrex. I'm sorry, I don't remember the other guy's name. But they unabashedly just say, wow, here's this really controversial topic that for some reason tends to divide people. What does Star Trek have to say about it? Mm-hmm. Highly recommend that people check it out. So Politrex is the thing, Politreks. And really looking forward to seeing Barry. And just a very few days.
Yeah.
In the meantime, as John mentioned, we do have other callers lined up. I believe Samuel is the next person on the line.
Samuel.
Hello.
My dear Samuel.
Hi, Vic. Hi, everyone.
Hey, buddy.
Look at that cool poster behind you.
Just individual renders carefully put together. No one can ever tell because I'm such a small box on our show. But
I'll bet you Samuel can tell us what chips are for.
Hello.
See what I did just that?
That's pretty amazing.
Where are you that it's 3:48 in the morning?
Oh, England, and still working on some CG. It's ridiculous, but it's going to look good, so it's worth it. And I just want to jump on because you had the option open. Just want to say, hey, John and Ken, big fans. I only saw a live stream from you guys about a month ago. Seeing your faces the first time, but I've been fans for 2-3 years. And that editing I do and hearing your voices on the side monitor and just listening, a lot of hours. So thanks for the entertainment.
Wow. Well, thank you for that. So kindly. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And I just want to ask, because I'm the ship guy and you got Vic, so, obviously TOS. What would you say was your favorite single piece of the original 1960s Matt Jeffries designed Enterprise? All three of you.
Separate piece of the Enterprise? Is
just
that
one individual piece? What's the favorite thing?
Mm.
And I can vamp if you want some time to think.
Well, you know what? I'm going to go. I mean, I know this is kind of lame, but I'm going to go with the saucer. You know what I loved about the saucer, even when I was a little kid, how it's got the bulges on the top and on the bottom, but they're not the same size. I remember looking at it like this profile, and the bulge on the top is much bigger than the protrusion on the bottom. And I remembered thinking, if I were to make this, I'd have made them, the same. and yet it is so much more beautiful and elegant that they are not the same. And so I love that. That's my answer.
I'm just gonna, not to be contrarian, but I'm gonna go with the secondary hull only because I figure if any incoming fire comes in, they're gonna go for the primary hull first.
True.
Second of all, if I'm in the secondary hull, that's probably like where the arboretum, the bowling alley, probably where they keep all the good food. So all of that other side, I'm just gonna hang out down there, and yeah. I'll call it a bigger windows, I think. Yeah.
I have a tough time answering the question. I mean, honestly, the thing that most appeals to me, but it's not even really, I guess it's part of its design. It's the window. It's the window up at the very top, which you see in the cage when we sort of zoom in.
Big dome.
And, right. Dome. And it's not like that's a thing that's just sort of a structural thing. We zoom in and that's the first time we see Pike. That's the first time we see number one.
Yeah.
I don't know whose decision that was, but that they literally put you on the Enterprise in that, which was a neat bit of design and a neat bit of.
You know what? I have to say, can I add to my answer?
No, I'm sorry.
Samuel, I love the right nacelle, but I hate the left nacelle.
Yeah, that's very reasonable. Yeah.
Hey, John, before we run out of time, I would really love to talk about the audiobook. These are the voices. Yeah.
Samuel, thank you so much for calling in.
Thanks, Samuel. Hey, Samuel, are you coming to Vegas?
No, sorry. But something of mine might be there in spirit.
I'm going to be in Manchester, England this coming weekend.
That's a bit closer. Oh, this weekend is a big event in London. I'm seeing 4 doctors.
Oh my gosh! So, we'll tell them we said hello. All righty.
Okay. Thanks, Vic. Thanks, guys.
It's funny that he asked about the Enterprise, John, because I'm currently reading this audiobook. I'm doing the audiobook for the Voyages.
You don't say.
The Mark Cushman book that in very, very great detail dives deep into the making of the original series of Star Trek. Quotations from all of the major players, excerpts from inter-office memos and letters, and some of the writers of the episodes, guest stars, Gene Roddenberry, Bob Justman, Herb Solow, Dorothy Fontana, Joe D'Agosta, and Matt Jeffries. I'm learning so much about the original series production that I didn't even know from reading these books. They are so in-depth and so comprehensive. And I'm bringing a lot of the Star Trek Continues cast and crew in to voice some of these characters. A certain bearded host is going to make a vocal appearance, and a lot of the original people who were there. DC Fontana is going to be reading her own excerpts. I just had in this room, Joe D'Agosta was here 4 days ago. We hit it off, had a great time. Adam Nimoy is going to be reading his dad's excerpts. Chris Doohan's going to be reading, his dad's excerpts. And then a lot of our Star Trek Continues production people are going to be reading their TOS counterparts. Like William Smith is going to be reading Matt Jeffries' excerpts. Amazing. And Andy Farber, the composer who did a lot of music for us, is going to be reading Alexander Courage's excerpts. And Matt Busey, our director of photography, is going to be reading Jerry Finnerman's excerpts. So we're involving a lot of people, and These Are the Voyages Book 1 audiobook is going to be a lot of fun to listen to.
So most importantly, when and where can we get it?
Well, I will tell you that we are currently almost 3/4 of the way finished with the audiobook. It's a massive undertaking. For those of you that don't know, it's a 700-page book and 38 chapters. And we're about 24 chapters in. And especially, it's funny, I could have saved myself a lot of work if I just read all the parts myself. But I thought about what would make it more fun for the listener to enjoy. And I thought, well, if we actually had other people reading the other characters, then the voices would change and it would add so much more variety, and it would make you feel like you're sitting down listening to an actual interview, or you're sitting in a room and, you know, Gene Roddenberry is sitting there telling you in his own words about his recollections and the things that were happening during each of the making of these episodes. So I doubled my workload by bringing in a bunch of other people, but I think that the listeners ultimately will really enjoy it a lot more.
Awesome.
So
all right.
We're going to be promoting it at Vegas. We'll be promoting it at Vegas and handing out postcards and stuff. And of course, you can check on the Star Trek Continues website and Facebook pages, and Jacobs Brown Press, the publisher who's behind it, are going to be putting out interviews based on the recordings. So
perfect.
We're running really short on time. We're going to skip the lightning round tonight, but I don't want to skip the promo for Priority One, Roddenberry Star Trek podcast. I will keep it quick. They're coming up in about 5 or 10 minutes. So right as soon as we're done here, please go to facebook.com/Priority One podcast, because Kenna, Elijah, Anthony are all getting together to do the fun Star Trek news thing that they do. We've got at least one other caller, maybe two. I know we're going to be able to get to one. I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Is it Ati?
Ati, yes.
Ati, welcome to the show.
Hi.
Hi, Ati.
Oh, you remember me, Vic? I met you at Anime Mid-Atlantic last year.
Hello there, Ati. Nice to see you again.
Good to see you. I hope to see you at Dragon Con.
I will look forward to it. What is your question, my dear?
I have two. First of all, since Kirk is a ladies' man, do you think Tamaki would get the most chicks, or Captain Kirk would get most of the chicks?
Well, I think Captain Kirk wins that one. Ooh. Mostly because Tamaki is an animated character, so I don't think he could. I don't think he could probably, he couldn't measure up to Captain Kirk in the real world.
True that. My second one was, and I'm gonna keep this short as possible. My friend asked me, why did you have to kill Dr. McKenna off the last?
Well, you know what? We didn't want to kill McKenna, but it was powerful. That's why we did it. You know what? Can I tell you something, Ati? When you're finishing up the original series of the most iconic TV show in television history, and you need to come up with some really legitimate emotional reasons for why Mr. Spock would go back to Vulcan to pursue the Kulinar, or why Dr. McCoy would leave the service, or why Kirk would take a desk job, we decided that one of the most powerful reasons would be to lose someone really close to you, and in Spock's case, lose someone close to you that you feel responsible for their death. So that was why we chose it. We chose it because we knew it would be powerful, and it would be just enough motivation to have them make some of the very important choices that they made. But thank you, my dear. Thanks for calling. I'll look forward to seeing you at DragonCon. I want us to make sure and try to get to Michael here before we run out of time.
Let's squeeze it. Ati, thank you so much. Michael,
thanks, Ati. Thank you, my dear.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Michael.
Hey, how are you? Thanks for squeezing me in. I'll keep this brief because I know you're running short. It's a real thrill to get to talk to you all. I came across Star Trek Continues strictly by error on the internet, and I was blown away. Total fan, shocked. Like Vic, a lifelong fan. The attention to detail, the scoring of original music blew my mind. I was a professional engineer for audio at Disney World for 20 years.
Oh, wow.
There's a lot to impress me. Man, was I on board.
I am so glad. I'm honored, Michael.
My question is, I understand there's some conflict with trying to do more Star Trek. And so being a retro fan like yourself, would you ever consider Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea Continues? Lost in Space Continues? Some of those retro, full-color psychodramas that we all grew up on. Is there?
You know what, Michael? I have to tell you, my answer to that would be no, and I'll tell you why. Nothing came close to moving me the way the original series of Star Trek did.
And I'm with you.
Nothing touched it to me. And you know what? I'm a big Star Wars fan too. You know what? Right over there, right beside my phaser, I have a lightsaber replica. I mean, I love Star Wars, but nothing inspired me anywhere close to what the original series did. So I don't know that I could ever pour the amount of love and attention into anything else that I did to Star Trek Continues. This was my love letter to Star Trek, and I don't think I could ever do anything else that would touch it.
You know, I
bottom of my heart for finishing the series, because we were all dying to see how it ended.
Thank you, Michael. And you know what? Spread the good word. You know, I got a friend. I got a friend out there right now. I have a friend right out there right now named Mitesh, who needs to be watching Star Trek Continues. So, Michael, you continue to spread the good word. Okay?
I'll do it. You got me on board. I'm watching all the added sequences for the music scoring too. I love that stuff.
Thank you. Thank you, my friend.
Thank you very much, Michael, for calling in. You know, I really hate when you're on, Vic, because there's never anything to talk about. We will, of course, have to have you on again at some point. And thank you. So sorry to everybody who couldn't get on, but we will have Vic back on, and we look forward to having you back around with us as well. In the meantime, Mission Log Live is produced by Roddenberry Entertainment. Executive producer Rod Roddenberry. Technical production on Mission Log Live by Infinity Networks. Producer Brendan Bradley. Be sure to visit podcast.roddenberry.com for the latest from the Roddenberry Podcast Network. Thank you for everyone who joined us live. Thank you to everyone who joined us later. And we will talk to you in a couple of weeks.
And thanks for having me, you guys. What a pleasure.
Always, man. Thank you. Good night, everybody.